What's the least amount of power you've seen go to someone's head? Reddit mods. I was in a Ren Fair group. One asshole was the assistant guild master. He handled the fees and membership paperwork because the main guild master didn't want to. He lorded that over other people. Be nice to him, or maybe your paperwork suddenly went missing, or dues payment didn't go through. He was also severely overweight and ugly as sin, so when he hit on a girl and she shot him down, he suddenly made things uncomfortable for her, which caused a few women to leave. Also, weirdly enough, her paperwork got lost, or her dues didn't go through somehow. I'm so glad I got out of that group. Homeowners associations. When we first moved to Florida, my parents bought a house in an upper middle class subdivision. My dad decided we'd build an external garage and have a driveway perpendicular to the street in front of the house, and submitted details for approval per the HOA agreement. They came back and disapproved, saying they insisted the driveway should, instead of perpendicular, make a gentle curve of around 45 degrees, longer of course than just a straight shot of pavement, which would cost us more. Another time, while living at a condo complex with my then girlfriend, we decided to live together, but unfortunately she owned a dog and the complex wouldn't allow it. We gave the dog to a dear friend of hers, and I decided I'd actually run to become a board member of the condo association. Sadly, nothing came of it. I made a case for allowing small dogs, of charging dog owners extra to keep them on the property, but the board of mostly retirees and a couple of younger working people wouldn't budge. While these associations can be helpful for stuff like using fees, you pay them for upkeep of common areas, landscaping, laundry rooms, and with the condos covering any roof maintenance. Unfortunately, people with way too much time on their hands tend to gravitate to these positions and some relish their wee bit of power way too much. I left a kid in charge of the classroom while I stepped outside for 2 minutes to consult with an administrator. I came back, and he had a list of everyone who needed to be suspended. Edit. No, his name was not Dwight, for everyone asking. Also, holy crow, 5k upvotes, and more in the comments. Surprised this resonated with so many people. I worked security for a very popular hospital in Baltimore. We had a new hire take any chance to call someone out on the radio, being late from lunch, being a patrol, and not seeing someone stationed at their post. He would keep a notebook with him and document on others, and wasn't a guy you could show him a shortcut or he would tell on you. Our supervisors decided to put him as a base monitor, gives out orders to what's going on and who should respond to things, etc. He had told one of the supervisors to respond to a nurse's station about a complaint. She confirmed but was caught up with another situation, putting her on the other side of the hospital. Very large place. A few minutes passed, and when he called again she stated she was on her way, and he responded, "I sent you on that assignment 10 minutes ago, you need to hurry up." This was a supervisor who, if we kept stats, lead the league in firing security. Needless to say, he didn't make it out of his 90 days. I work on a team of programmers. One of the guys is terrible and screws up all his projects. But for some reason he's never been fired, and he's been with the company forever. Somehow, he got it into his head that he had seniority. So whenever the boss would be out of town for a day or call in sick, he'd immediately start walking around asking people what they are working on and assigning them tasks as if he were the manager. The actual manager eventually sent the whole team an email clarifying that if somebody was going to be left in charge, she would let us know. His tiny amount of perceived power was completely removed. Equals P. At my company of 80 people, we have an hour assistant that is inexplicably in charge of the receptionist. She does nothing but make the receptionist's life miserable, and has for the previous 4 receptionists. She'll reprimand them for their clothes, posture, smiling too much, not enough, arrangement of workspace, cleanliness of workspace, keeping water at the desk, keeping food at the desk, using the bathroom too much, etc. It's like she saves all her anger in her whole life and takes it out on the only person who is obligated to listen to her. I ran a movie theater. One guy was told to go and do a theater check, which was basically ensure the emergency exit was closed and that no one was doing anything unruly. Dude really got off on telling people to put their feet down. He was studying to go into law enforcement. I was legit scared by how much he delighted in getting into people's faces because he felt he had real authority in this scenario. My friend put a cold air intake in his '95 Honda Civic. Some guy was trying to pass him on the freeway and my buddy was like, "Let's show these guys what real power looks like." Then he floored it. The car gently accelerated to maybe 75 miles per hour before we overtook the other car, but my friend acted like he just won the Indy 500. One time I'll let my daughter choose what we were doing that day. She constantly reminded me, my boyfriend, and my son that she said we were going to the playground and dictated how and when we had fun there. I had to stop her when she tried to tell her brother it wasn't a good time to pee. But it was honestly funny. The next day was his turn and he chose to just watch Star Trek TNG. So everyone but my daughter had a great day that day. Mom had a house cleaner that came every 2 weeks for about 3 to 4 hours each visit. The cleaner would rearrange mom's things, including items in her curio cabinet, kitchen cabinet/counters, and other personal areas, like her jewelry box, figurines, and hygiene items in the bathroom. When mom asked her to please stop doing that, the cleaning lady said, "This is how I do things. If you don't like it, find someone else." Teacher here. We had a school librarian here who berated the children about the most minor infractions and even questioned kids about why they wanted a particular book. She would often yell, "This is my library." The kids called her Conan. Moderator of a Discord channel. Not the whole server, just one particular channel with a couple dozen people, out of a server with nearly 10k users. He started tripping, instituted this insane code of conduct he stole from Wizards of the Coast, including a clause that everyone had to respect him and not block his messages or they'd be banned. The absolutely wild thing is no one had ever heard of this guy before. The last time he'd said anything in the whole server was 2 years prior. Whenever they add a new feature at work, and it has the ability to track what other people are doing, i.e. a new queue system for a phone/program/etc, and you can see who is handling something, who is ready to handle something, and who is unavailable. It brings out the back office no title managers with a quickness. "I see you've been unavailable for the last half an hour. Everything okay?" "Oh no shit there Bill, I was in a meeting with my actual boss." What a shock that the people who do this never actually earn any title/raises and can't figure out why. Left my 3 kids to pop to the shop. As I was leaving, my 6 years old asked if he could be in charge. For a laugh I said yes. I was gone for maybe 15 minutes. In that time my little dude had called to tell me that his older brothers were being naughty, so he's banded them off their tech. Turns out, being naughty was not making him some crusher. Also the eldest, nearly 16, was banded off his phone because he wouldn't let him watch The Lion Guard. He had made a pile of their confiscated tech on the dining table with his toothless plush toy standing guard on top of it. His brothers were so amused by their baby brother's power trip that they complied. One guy at MCDS, when we were all 16 over 17 on the tills, he was given an extra 20p per hour, and after that even Hitler would have tipped his hat. He genuinely thought he was being fast-tracked to franchise owner or something. Watched us all like hawks, snitched on us for anything he didn't like. Spotty little oik. My company made the mistake of creating a tiered management system at a team level. So I was lead designer, had 3 mid-level designers I was responsible for, and they each had 1 junior designer or intern under them. The purpose of this structure is so that I don't have to get involved with every little thing involving the junior designer's work, and that they don't have to come directly to me with a problem. How it was interpreted by one of the mid-level designers was that she was now in charge of a section of the concentration camp. This particular person didn't really want to be a designer. She has a skill for visuals, so she ended up in a role, but really she's more of a business mind. She has terrible trouble understanding that design is an open collaborative task. You give constructive feedback and build up the people around you so that they can become better designers and get a sense of pride in their work. She saw the word manager and thought she was a whip cracker. All I'd hear was no, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. Just constant negative feedback. I stepped in and told her loudly in front of others that we don't say no or wrong in design review, and she replied, "Did I ask you?" So she's not in charge of anyone anymore. My approach with her now, because I can't get her sacked, is to never give her overly positive feedback. Before I realized she was narcissistic, I would have told her this is excellent, wow, this is great. But not anymore. The best way to handle a narcissist is to ignore them. They get bored when they are not getting attention. I was in a robotics club in high school. We made sure to be safe and always follow proper protocol like keeping hair up and safety glasses on, etc. This one kid was appointed by the adult mentors to make sure everyone had their glasses on, since occasionally people would step out for a break and forget to put them back on, and sometimes the adults would be busy and not notice. Over time this kid would get so strict and basically find an excuse to call out anyone. One time me and my friend stepped out of the workplace area so we could eat and take a break, and he called us out for having our hair down even though we didn't even have to wear glasses in the break area. SMH, how is my hair gonna get caught in some Cheez-Its? So, I worked in a call center around 2010 to 2013 for one of the big 3 cell providers in Canada. The usual billing and general customer service shtick. As it was the holidays, they usually found their back office team was horribly swamped with new line activations, and thus it was decided that a group of 20 or so of the best performers would go on outbound sales to boost the number even higher, and for another 20 of us, including myself, to be performing the back office work. What this resulted in was myself and the other lucky 19 not needing to take a single phone call for 6 weeks and literally just refresh a page, look for new activation requests and process them, copy and paste billing address /name /etc, run a credit check, and if successful with a properly filled out order, assign the phone information and submit it to be processed and shipped. Close bracket. This was a Christmas fucking miracle. After a day or two of doing the job and loving it, especially when in-store / and kiosk dealers would try and force us to activate a line that they didn't properly submit info for, I noticed that one of our 20 in-house salespeople had several activation requests in a row, which was a bit odd. I pulled them myself and checked, and out of 6, 1 was processed correctly, while the others clearly had a bit less thought put into them. Missing info, mistyped information, etc. I decided, you know what, I'm not a fan of this person already. Cancelled the 5 shit requests and told the others around me to let me handle any of hers for the next little while. This lady put through at least 25 activation requests a day, the average for that week being about 5 to 8, in what I could only assume would have been a purposeful attempt to try and get more commission on new line activations. I recorded every attempted request and killed off each and every one of them that wasn't 100% perfect, while cackling like the Wicked Witch of the fucking West, and just passed the list off to my supervisor once the 6 weeks were over. I don't think she was there more than another day or 2. TL. Dr. Jim, the ability to check annoying co-workers for fraud, and they are gonna have a bad time. Hadn't seen the local neighborhood bully in 30 years. Took my GF and her kids rolling skating at a place that's been around forever. My first time there, local bully was there and had graduated to roller security. He was an absolute ass, cruising around on his skates like he owned the place, harassing and tossing people off the floor for having fun. It was embarrassing to say that even I knew his name. Imagine a setting. A small village Catholic elementary school in a village of about 1,500 people. Total of about 8 teachers, 1 for 2 to 3 subjects for 9 grades. Total amount of kids across all grades, maybe 150. A geography teacher, a good but demanding dude. Likes to make jokes, is pretty cool with kids and pushes them to do their best. Dresses casually and doesn't think twice of his vocabulary. Well, sunny days end when the geography teacher becomes the director at the young age of 28. He fires the best teachers, hires teachers in pensions who don't care, and college graduates who have no idea what they're doing. Dresses in tux 24/7 and enforces extremely strongly school rules, so strongly that he forces a guy, about 14, to take off his earring, because earrings are only for women, in front of a school assembly, and makes the boy an example of shameful behavior. He later gets fired for wasting resources. Pretty much any volunteer at a convention. One guy told my friends the empty hallway outside their room roughly 30 stories above the convention floor was a walkway and not a standway, and they needed to move. He couldn't understand why everyone just started laughing. They weren't even there that long. Someone was just trying to find their badge. This old lady who is allowed to control the traffic at my kid's elementary school at pickup time. She has hundreds of traffic cones and blocks off all the spots she doesn't think people should park. Most of the places she blocks are actual legal places to park. She supposedly has permission from the PD to do this and no one questions her. She doesn't work for the school. She's a volunteer. I've seen her get in dozens of confrontations with people, including me, because her rules are ridiculous. She's told me straight up that it's the only thing in her life she has control over, so she goes way over the top. She's the worst.
Wow! Wow!
I'm just a regular, everyday, normal motherfucker.
I told you in the first song, I'll tell you in another.
I'm just a regular, everyday, normal motherfucker.
I don't have a girl.
Can't be touched, can't be stopped, can't be moved, can't be rocked, can't be shook. We hot when you niggas came to get crunk, came to bring life.
What's the most fucked up thing ever been told to you in confidence? I was once friends with a girl who told me that in order to get her ex-boyfriend, with whom she had been having an affair, back, she had sent an email to his suicidal wife detailing their affair. Her intention was not just to break them up, but to have the wife kill herself. She eventually attempted it and was found unconscious by her husband as he opened the front door. Thankfully she survived it all, but needless to say, it's why we aren't friends anymore. A former friend was getting a divorce. His wife got pregnant again. He did not want the baby. When he was watching the two children he would dote on the elder and be mean to the younger, feeding the young one very spicy food so that his mouth would burn, and saying it was to get him to stop asking for food because he was a fatty. He would also neglect the child with full knowledge of what he was doing. I ripped the dad a new asshole and have never talked to him again. I did not have even close to enough information about this friend to contact anyone. When my brother and I were teens, he told me he wished he could die so he could be with his mother and so that he wouldn't be in pain every day and be a burden on father. He told me he knew just how much of his painkillers he needed to take and he wouldn't feel anything, just slip away and never wake up. It scared the hell out of me. Father somehow found out and got him counseling, and he's never talked about it again, but it was terrifying at the time. My friend confided to me that when she was 10 a friend of mine who was 18 raped her. She said she freaked out about what would happen if she got pregnant, since she hadn't even had her first period yet. I think it was the mixture of finding out my friend was a rapist and the combination of her being so innocent that she thought she could get pregnant without having started menstruating that fucked my head the most. One of my mates told me he killed someone a few weeks prior. Honestly didn't believe him. Thought he was just making shit up. Then I saw the newspaper article. A few months later he's in prison and I never saw him again. A guy I was seeing for a while there was a bit on the odd side. He was very into politics. Not that there was anything wrong with that. One day we spoke about travel, and he confided in me the real reason he wanted to travel. He was a great fan of Vladimir Tepes, otherwise known as Vladimir the Impaler / the real Dracula, and wanted to carry on his name in modernism. He wanted to travel to Gaza and blow it up. He also, more importantly, wanted to know what it was like to kill a human being, so long as he doesn't necessarily get caught doing so. He detailed to me how he liked the idea of gutting someone and taking out their entrails as a trophy. He believed traveling to the Middle East / Africa, he would get away with it far more easier than here. Plus, there, he could avenge the East's war in the West. Another time, he confided in me that he wanted to start a military coup here in Australia. I no longer talk to him, but I can't say my fear has subsided. He was 50 shades of fucked up. I was talking with a friend about this girl that I had met, and my friend said he hated her, and I thought this was strange, because my friend isn't one to hate people. I ask further, and he tells me that they used to date, and I thought standard bad breakup. And as he continues, he says that once he broke up with her one day, she told the entire school she broke up with him because he raped her. She then went to the police, which launched a year-long investigation where my friend, who is one of the nicest guys ever, had to be brought into the police station multiple times for questioning, had to spend a heap of money on lawyers, all because of some crazy chick who couldn't handle being dumped. Later in the year the case was dropped, and she admitted she made the story up. During my first year in university, a professor died of a heart attack. It was during midterms, and he was consulting a student at the time. In grad school I met that student. He was a doctoral candidate working with the new graduate students. One night we were drinking at the campus pub, and he told me he waited until the professor was dead before he called for help. In short, he just watched him die. Take your pick. I found the man who robbed me at gunpoint, and he now has a metal plate in the back of his skull. My foster mother would get cats and dogs and accidentally run them over when she was bored of them. She got bored of me. She tried to drown me in the bathtub. My siblings and I convinced ourselves we were being sexually abused by our grandfather, so CPS would take us away from our abusive grandmother. A friend of mine whose wealthy drug-addicted mother had her institutionalized, where she was sexually abused, burned her mother's house down after getting out. When they started to rebuild the house, she burnt it down again when it was nearly done. That they basically raped a girl. These two guys I knew from high school had gone off to university together, to a known party school. We all met back up over the winter holidays, and were sharing crazy party stories, because we were 18. In our first year of university, and idiots. These two guys tell me about how one of them brought a girl back to his dorm after a party, and she was really drunk, and they hooked up, and then in the middle of the night his friend switched places with him while she slept, and then his friend had sex with the girl. They thought it was absolutely hilarious that the girl hadn't noticed their little switcheroo. I called them out on how fucked up that is, but they got really defensive about it. I stopped talking to them after that, and I told my close girlfriends, who attended the same uni as those guys, about what they had told me. I was once dating this woman I had met online, and one day we were sitting at Panera having some food. We invariably got to the subject of sex. She asked me how many people I've had sex with, and I reluctantly told her I was a virgin. She laughed out loud and was adamant that I was joking with her. I kept trying to convince her that no, I really am a virgin. Once she realized I was serious, she said, well, that's rather unfortunate. I'm sure there's a girl out there for you. I thought to myself, well, fuck me. I thought the whole point I was taking you on a date was because you're interested in me, but now you've made it blatantly obvious that I'm a worthless piece of shit because I'm a virgin and you no longer consider me an option. Without saying a word, I just got up with my food and drove away. That was 2 years ago, and to this day I still have extreme anxiety surrounding my virginity, and I still feel undeserving of anyone's affection. A friend of mine was scared to death of Mike Mears, and would freak out every time the Halloween theme music played. So our group of friends and I would tease her all the time by playing the music on our phones and playfully chase her around. It was all in good fun, and we had no malicious intent at all. Well, finally, my friend just snapped and pulled me aside, stating that the reason why she was so fearful of the Halloween movies was because her uncle used to put the Mike Mears mask on and rape her when she was little. She confided in her parents and they did nothing about it. They just told her to pray about it. To say I feel like a piece of shit is an understatement. She's severely traumatized by this event. She freezes up when she has sex with anyone now. She finds no pleasure in it at all. She told me that her boyfriend only lasts 8 minutes at the most, which she finds amazing, so that she doesn't have to pretend to like it for too long. I keep telling her to go talk to someone about it, but she doesn't have insurance and she's convinced no one will believe her, since her own parents didn't. It's a completely fucked up situation. She says she's pretty sure he did this to her little cousin as well. There's a rapist walking around free, and it makes me furious. She's my closest friend and I see how damaged she is over this event, but I feel so helpless. What do you do in this type of situation? My dad used to work part-time at a warehouse in a low-income area while he was in school, and his coworkers liked to confide things with him for some reason. One of his coworkers would eat pickled jalapenos from the jar all day and then complain about how his wife yelled at him about it burning when he went down on her. Another one of his coworkers confided in him that he murdered someone several years back in Minnesota. People just open up to me. It doesn't matter if I've known them 5 minutes or a few years. They always talk. I keep their secrets, but as a general overview, I've been told the following. Body counts of several soldiers who have yet to tell anyone but their battle buddies what they've done. 2 stories of being molested by family members. 2 different people, and, unfortunately, 3 different pedophiles. 1 went to jail. Yay for that. A few tales of cheating, substance abuse, rape/sexual assault. Maybe I should be a counselor, since people naturally open up to me. Fuck these people who abuse people and molest them, and make them have shame over their own terror. When it comes to harm/abuse, I will always go to the police if I can. And I have. Ugh, this is drudging up shit I've buried. I have an old childhood friend who joined a rather notorious gang where I'm from. Got drunk one night after years apart. Told me as a prospect the worst thing he did was to put his girlfriend at the time on the block. He has hated the older gang members that made him do it and planned out how he is going to kill them down to the last detail. I have no idea whether he will do it or not, but he hates them like nothing I've seen. I occasionally go target shooting with an older gentleman who is an immigrant from a country that at one point, back before the internet, but during the times of VHS, had a reasonably oppressive government. He sort of views me as the son he never had. I'm over 25 years younger than him, and sometimes we grab beers after a day out. Over time, he told me that he was in his country's secret police and was involved in several extrajudicial executions. And by involved, I mean committed. I have seen photographic and physical proof that he was in a paramilitary organization that you have likely heard of, so the only thing that he can't prove are the stores themselves. I'm inclined to believe them, based on the consistency in his general demeanor, and he's a very honest man that I consider to be a friend who has no reason to lie to me. I'm not especially bothered by the stories either, for a number of reasons that aren't particularly important. Still, they are certainly fucked up. At about 5 AM in a CD bar a few years ago, a guy told me he had just got out of prison for murdering a fellow soldier. He said that the guy had been shot by the enemy, so he broke his neck to put him out of his misery. He said he would have gotten away with it, but they found the footage of his body cam and saw what he did. Literally none of this makes a single ounce of sense and is probably complete bullshit, but still pretty fucked considering how much he seemed to believe it himself. I used to know a lady who I was sort of friends with. She was venting to me the one day about her father because she had a very rocky relationship with him. He was a big drinker, would leave the family for long stretches of time only to show up and act like nothing ever happened. The like. Well, he continued to do the same even in her adult life, which was what the rant was about to start with. Well, it was starting off kind of normal, lots of the why is he even bothering kind of complaints. Then, it got really weird. She started talking about how her and her mother have the feeling that the father molested her older sister growing up. They didn't have definitive proof, but the feeling was there. Okay, slightly odd conversational shift, but I sat there with a sympathetic ear. It got really weird when she asked, why did he molest her and not me? Why would he love one child enough to do that to them, and hate me enough to never even to try to touch me? That's when I mentally noped out of that conversation. My father telling me I should abort my child because I would hurt/kill him because I suffered from depression 3 years prior to getting pregnant. Guess who ended up suffering from postnatal depression? Because I was terrified I would hurt my child. I really don't understand why the hell he said that when I'm the kind of person who ends up crying whenever I see child abuse stories on the news. I went no contact with my father recently because of this shit. An ex-girlfriend from when I was a teenager told me she had had a miscarriage. I was 16 at the time, and she was implying it was mine. Later she phoned me up to tell me she had taken an overdose of paracetamol. Naturally I completely panicked, told my grandmother, and got her to drive me over to her house. to see what was going on / convince her to go to hospital. Anyway, long story cut short, we took her to the hospital where she got her stomach pumped. Later she told me that the miscarriage was a factor in her suicide attempt and that she was extremely emotional about the fact I might break up with her. The relationship dragged on for a while longer as I was concerned about her mental well-being and potentially being responsible for a second attempt, and besides I still cared about her. Years later, after we had broken up, at her convenience, and I had gone away to university for years, I met another friend of mine for drinks. She told me that she had spoken with my ex-girlfriend's sister in recent years, and she had found out that the miscarriage never happened at all. Not only that, but she had been cheating on me the whole time with a mutual acquaintance. Couldn't bloody believe it. Crazy bitch. My friend, girl, introduced me to her new boyfriend. They had been dating for about a month. I'm pretty good friends with the girl. We've known each other a long time. Well, the three of us are hanging out, and the guy's pretty cool, or so I thought. Later in the night, she goes to the bathroom or to make a drink or something, and he starts telling me about the girl he was with last night and shows a picture. I ask him why he was telling me this, and he says, "You seem like a cool guy and you know a guy's gotta do what a guy's gotta do." I honestly just stared for a minute, like, no way he is that dumb. Before my friend comes back, I just tell him to get out. He gives a quizzical look, and I stand. Then he stands, because at this point I don't think his brain can comprehend what is happening. I just walk him to the door with the classic hand on the collar, open it and then guide him out. My friend comes back in and asks where he went, and then I sat her down and told her exactly what he told me while I hear him pounding on the door. She opens the door and slaps him. He starts pleading and telling her I'm into her, etc. She slams the door and cries. Then we got drunk and ordered pizza. People in the service industry, what are some really dumb ways you've caught someone trying to cheat the system? My favorite in my McDonald's are the people who don't realize a soda fountain is behind the counter and they ask for a cup for water. So, we get them a cup of water and hand it to them. They realize they can't fill it with the soda they wanted, and then they go ahead and order a soda anyway. Best caught in the act moment ever. At my McDonald's, this guy came with his 2 young kids and got Happy Meals, and then called me over and said this cheeseburger has no meat and demanded that he get another cheeseburger, and then one of his kids said that you just ate it, referring to the meat in the cheeseburger. Congratulations sir, you played yourself. A delightfully drunk man insisted that the mop he was carrying away was his. You brought it with you on a winery tour? Yes. I think a super popular one that most people are probably familiar with would be, let me talk to your manager. This is especially common when you are simply doing your job as instructed, following rules and policies, and you tell the customer something that don't want to hear. My ticket says it expires on January 1st, 2014. Can I still use that today? No ma'am, I'm afraid not. Since the ticket is expired, you will not be able to use it. You'll need to buy a new ticket. What? Nobody ever told me I couldn't use the ticket just because it's expired. This is ridiculous. You're trying to steal my money. Let me talk to your manager right now. They are going to let me use this ticket or I will sue you. Oh yeah, on that subject, threatening a lawsuit is another popular one that people try all day long. Former fancy pants hotel worker here. We have a strict no smoking in the hotel policy because it's a city law and b old historic building. But foremost, the city law dictates that if you allow smoking in your business, the air quality has to meet this impossible standard. I'm not sure what that standard is, but you can look up Mike Digker's restaurateur and the smoking ban for details. Anyhow, even with a $300 fine detailed at check-in and also in room, people would still try to smoke in the rooms and get away with it. If they didn't leave evidence we couldn't charge them, but oddly enough, nobody was ever that smart. On one occasion, the room was rank with smoke, and the housekeeper found a pop can loaded with cigarette butts. We actually photograph, tag, and inventory these items, because people would tend to dispute these charges. So when presented with the evidence, the lady tells us that she was smoking outside the building, ashing into her hand, and then carrying her ashes up to her room on the 14th floor, and carefully depositing all of her ashes into the tiny hole of the pop can. She unsuccessfully disputed her charges. FYI, the $300 charge is in place because we cannot sell the room until the air quality is that of a room where somebody was not smoking, with a good ozone machine. That might take a day or two. I used to work as a hostess at a popular wing place. Once we had a family come through, and when it was time to pay they handed their server a Dennis coupon. The server was like, "This is for Dennis, not for here." And the customer said, "Oh, I just thought I would try it anyways. You never know." We used to have free food for happy hour. Just some deep fried Cisco crap like chicken tenders or jalapeno poppers. So many people would come in, order a water, load up on free apps and leave. We old stagger bringing them out, a tray at a time, for the whole happy hour. The people who were not paying for any drinks often had the balls to get upset and complain when they weren't coming out in a timely manner. Worked at Office Depot. The rewards program used to give a % of purchases back to the customer in the form of a gift card every quarter. One cashier at Odd decided to sign up for the rewards program under her name and scan customers' purchases throughout the day under her own account. She ended up accruing thousands of dollars in rewards in one quarter. This is with 1% back on most purchases, which was more than any other customer in the southeast region of the US. Needless to say, it wasn't very difficult for management to realize what had happened. Shortly after that incident, Office Depot switched up the rewards program so this couldn't happen again. Retail gets a ton of these cheats. Here are some examples. A worker scans an item. Let's say it's a high-end brand button-down shirt, and it rings up at $100. Customer says but the rack it was on said 80% off. After going over to check, the worker notices that the shirt was indeed hanging on a rack labeled 80% off, but that rack was full of last season's shorts. There were no other shirts on the rack. Not surprisingly, there are 4 other shirts of the same style and price that are hanging on a separate rack, and no discount is advertised on that rack. The customer was obviously mistaken, but they demand a manager anyway. Ticket switching. A worker scans an item. Let's say it's the same button-down shirt. This does happen a lot. After all, that they know costs $100, but it rings up as $70. However, the register also reads as having scanned a t-shirt from a different brand, which is located halfway across the store from the shirt the customer actually brought to the register. Obviously that's not correct. Customers are much less likely to debate this, and I'll explain why in a second. Store runs a promotion, which essentially boils down to buy enough stuff in store and we'll give you a free gift card. A customer comes in and buys $110 worth of stuff, and they get a $20 gift card. They then wander around the store and find different items that cost just over $100 again. They take their first purchase to another register, return it, and then purchase the new stuff, and they get another $20 gift card. Rinse and repeat. With the exception of number 3, these people are committing retail fraud, which is a misdemeanor, on par with actual shoplifting, for the dollar amounts they are trying to make off with. Doing this is a quick and easy way to never be able to go to a retail store again without having employees basically breathing down your neck. Number 3 isn't illegal, it's just a nuisance. Please be aware that, if a store ever runs a promotion like this, the promotional gift cards are tracked, in a sense. If the items that were bought to receive the gift card are returned, the gift card no longer has any value. Our imaginary customer for scenario 3 will be very disappointed when they come in with hundreds of dollars in gift cards, only to figure out they only have $20 on a single gift card. Edit. I just remembered another type of cheat that customers try to pull all the time. The store where I work does not sell damaged goods because that sets a precedent for people to spill a bit of soda or smear some macup on something and ask for and or get a reduced price because of the damage. The worst example I have of this is something that happened quite recently. It's just about closing time. and two people, probably boyfriend and girlfriend or a husband and wife, come in and start looking at some high-end stuff in my section. I wasn't too keen on helping them originally, but I very quickly noticed that the man looked like he was casing the place. He was very obviously trying to block my view of him, and he searched for all of our security cameras. I approach both of them and ask if they need help. They very quickly say they are just browsing. Whatever. At one point, the woman says, "Babe, I found one," and the two of them grab a shirt and stand ridiculously close to the store exit, facing away from the security cameras. I'm staring them down from about 30 feet away, and they eventually notice, so they scurry off to the closest department and go into a fitting room. I'll let my coworker know that they look super shifty, and then I go do stuff for a while. No one else is around, so I go back to my coworker to talk to him about some stuff and help him with closing details. And before I even reach him, the man from earlier storms towards him and shouts to him, "Hey, are you a manager?" My coworker says no, but lets the man know that he can call a manager if he lets him know why a manager's presence is necessary. The man says that there's a hole in the shirt he wanted to buy, so he's wanting to get a 75% discount for the damaged shirt, which was one of these mystical $100 shirts. I wasn't able to see the shirt and I just went about minding my own business, but I found out later what had happened. The man and woman went into the fitting rooms and took the handicapped accessible room, which has a nice big table space for disabled individuals to sit while changing. The man attempts to take the security tag off of the shirt, and he succeeds, but he also rips a hole in the shirt. We are not talking a pinprick. This guy had literally ripped an almost 3/4 inch in diameter hole in this goddamn shirt. It was completely ruined. He then tried to guilt my coworker into selling it to him for an absolutely crazy reduced price, standard price reduction for minor physical blemishes, such as color differences or creases in floor sample chooses, at most 10%, because it was 1, damaged, and 2, the only shirt of its kind that the store had in his size. My coworker obviously refused to let the man walk away with his failed shoplifting attempt, and later the two of us found the broken security tag stuck to the underside of the table in the handicapped accessible changing room with a piece of chewing gum. TL. Doctor, stores don't sell damaged goods because they know fuckwits will try to game the system. It didn't happen to me, but a coworker of mine shipped a guitar to a customer once, and the customer called in saying he never received it, demanding a replacement be sent immediately or else he would sue. Tracking info said it was delivered and signed for, but delivery theft is still pretty common. On a whim though, my coworker looked him up on Facebook, only to find him holding the guitar in his profile picture, with the caption, "My new guitar just arrived." Management sent him a screenshot of that he was never heard from again. I scanned the shirt without looking carefully, and it rang up at $16.99. The customer politely asked me to check the tag, because it was marked $10. I apologized and took a look. The clearance sticker was placed in entirely the wrong place, leaving the regular price barcode completely exposed, so that's what the scanner picked up. I apologized again, and explained that the tickets didn't match up, but we'd have somebody run a confirmatory price check. That was the first item I had scanned, so I was extra vigilant with his other items, all of which had improperly placed clearance tickets. They were all men's big and tall sizes, but at least one of the clearance tags was from Junior Miss. Some of the items were already clearanced, but with a replaced tag for just $2 or $3 difference. I would have caught it eventually, but pointing out the scanning error is what tipped me off. Throughout the whole thing, the guy was unfailingly polite, so I kept thanking him for his patience while we ran 4 price checks. He still bought $50 worth of stuff. Another favorite was when one of our known shoplifters, the kind who does it as a criminal enterprise, turned in a job application. We had her on camera stealing handbags earlier that day. Those people who ask for cups of water and a bowl of lemons wedges, then proceed to make lemonade with sugar packets at the table. This happened quite a few times when I was a waitress. I get that water is free and lemons are technically free, but honestly, the lemon wedges probably cost the business more than a cup of lemonade. My manager would just have me charge them for a drink. I once saw a woman at a Longhorns chain steakhouse walk out with the entire bowl of those small packaged mints. The hostess was in such shock that by the time she walked out to say something, the woman already drove off. I work in it. Some guy wanted to get some free prints, so he asked for a refund on a bunch of pages, saying he didn't issue the print request. Aside from that being, not the greatest reason, since you had to log in to submit requests, we could literally track his iPhone via MAC address as he moved across campus connecting to our Wi-Fi spots. It just so happened that he had moved from his room to the printer location and back, right before he made the request. One of my old jobs had an online order system with a special instructions box. You wouldn't believe how many times people typed in add bacon or double meat, extra cheese, expecting to get these things for free. They always got pissed if you added these things to their ticket, and then they would be like, well, I don't want those things if they cost extra. They would always expect me to give them their already made sandwich with the extras. Nope. I remade them every time. Had a lady call our Pizza Hut claiming that we gave her hard undercooked wings that sent her daughter to the hospital and wanted us to pay her medical bills. However, none of the 5 or 6 phone numbers she provided showed any orders for wings or anything else in our system or the nearest few stores. I don't know if she just expected us to give her thousands of dollars on hearsay. The gym I work at has a check-in computer that none of us employees ever check. We know everyone by name, and maybe every once in a while we check memberships. Not our job, but the job of the manager, who is completely absent. If someone needs to pay, a message pops up after check-in that they need to pay, but it gets deleted when the member hits enter. So I checked this one guy on a random whim. He hadn't paid his membership in over a year. Next time he came in, he scanned his card and hit enter. I was standing behind him and said, "So, for a year, you've been pretending to scan in, and all the while you haven't paid your membership? Man, if things are so bad for you, you can't afford $30. I'll gift you a charity membership through our poverty program. Are you interested?" He said, "No. Here's $30. I'll pay from now on." About 2 months later, he stopped coming in. What I hated was he was a friend at that point. Yeah, some friend. Steal from where I work and smile and hug me every time you come in. Liar. Creep. But foe of my gym.
Hello darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you.
People that went out to eat, only to find you didn't have the money to pay after the meal. What happened? I ordered a meal at Arby's once, and my card was declined. Guess I was broke and didn't know it. Apologized to the girl at the register and walked out the restaurant. The manager ran outside and got me, said no one should be without a meal. I told him I appreciate it, but I could go home and eat. He insisted and gave me the meal. It was humbling and emotional. Went back on payday and offered to pay, but he won't have it. I went to breakfast on my own after having a really bad work experience overnight. Apparently I had left my purse at work in my locker. I always carry my keys with me. I apologized profusely and broke down. The waitress said it wasn't a big deal, but her boss heard and said I'd need to leave identification, which I didn't have because it was in my purse. I offered to leave my shoes while I went 20 miles across town to work for it. The waitress tugged him to the side, then came back and said it was taken care of. Later I thanked him and he was confused. The waitress paid for my meal. I remembered her and went back the next week and paid for my old meal plus 40% of this one and the last one. It all went into her tip. I'll never forget that. I've never had anyone do something so nice. I was on a first date, and in the middle of eating at a restaurant, I got a text message. After a few minutes, I got a chance to check it, and it was from my bank. An online transaction I had forgotten about had gone through, and my balance was down to $5 or so. I panicked, texted a friend something along the lines of "I'll explain later, but I need $50 right the fuck now." meet me at the front of the restaurant. When I saw him, I told my date I was going to the bathroom and grabbed the cash from my friend. Date went well. It's been almost 4 years and we are still together. Had a falling out with that friend though. Oh well, that's life. I apologized profusely and said I'd be back in a bit to pay, but I'm not sure if they believed me. They said they recognized me as a frequent customer and told me not to worry about it. I came back within an hour with my wallet. The hostess was very confused as to what I was trying to do. It was much busier. The waitress that I had found me and was surprised that I came back. She rang me up and I left $10 extra in the tip. They never mentioned it again, but the next several times I came in they didn't ring up my drink. Done this twice. Once was a bajal shop that I go to every week. I totally forgot to bring my wallet. They told me just to pay next week, then teased me about it. It was cool. The second time was at a very nice restaurant. Two credit cards were declined at our table, and the table next to us was declined as well. The restaurant realized their credit service was down and asked for a business card so they could call us the next day to resolve the bill. First week stationed at Camp Pendleton, Circa, and decided to go out and get dinner at a restaurant. The waitress brought me the bill and I realized I had forgotten my wallet. She said if I could be back within an hour with a form of payment and took her out for coffee after her shift. She'd pretend it never happened. We were married 8 months later, divorced 3 years later after she cheated on me while I was deployed. Someone got a hold of my debit card number and racked up over $1,000 in bullshit charges delivered to some address in California. My bank noticed this and cancelled my debit card. That was nice of them, but it wasn't so nice to not inform me. I went out to eat with a few buddies, so thankfully when my card was declined, I was able to ask them to help me out. I ordered a small pizza from Mary's Pizza Shack once and walked over there to pick it up, and my debit card was declined for some reason. I asked them if they could wait a few minutes while I walked to the bank to get some money out, and it wouldn't let me do that either. I was really confused and concerned. It was a Sunday and the bank was closed. I went back to the pizza place and explained to them what had happened and that I couldn't pay them, and the manager offered me the food for free on the pretext that I continue to go there in the future. It was really great of them. Turns out someone got a hold of my card information and tried to purchase like $3.50 at a Toys R Us across the country, so they locked my act down. I wasn't made aware of it because they had my old phone number on file. Anyway, I got it all cleared up, and the next day I went back to Mary's and asked to talk to the manager and gave them a $20. Pizza was like $10 or so, thanking him for being awesome. I'm Canadian, visiting Seattle, and, on my last day, decided to kill some time and check out a little French restaurant in Pike Place Market overlooking the bay. I ordered some French onion soup and a beer. When time came to pay the bill, I was ashamed to realize I'd run out of American currency. I explained the situation and apologized to the waiter, then offered him the $20 Canadian I had, more than enough to cover the bill. He looked at it with disgust and said, "I have no idea what that is." It ended with him refusing to take my money and telling me to just get out of there. Good times. The waitress covered it, and I told her I would be back tomorrow to pay. Her eyes got so huge when I walked in the next day. I don't think she believed I would come back and pay. Plus I gave her a $10 tip. Happened to me once at a small family-run restaurant at which I'm a regular. I realized it before the food came, so I ran up to the owner and explained I forgot my wallet and wanted to walk home to get it. I lived within walking distance. She was so kind and insisted that I eat first and come back the next day to pay. I was so embarrassed, but her kindness made my day. 3. I had a friend that would go out to eat with us once a week after we went dancing. It was always late, 11 or 12 o'clock, and the same waitress was always there, who was awesome. Well, every fucking time he'd come, order, and then insist he didn't have the money, and I'd end up paying for him. I got sick of it one day and told him if he did it to me that night I was going to ditch him. I then went and talked to the waitress and told her what's going on. She'd heard me get pissed at him more than once over it, and she said no problem. Well, he tried to pull it. I refused to pay for him and had her bring a bill for everyone at the table but him. I then tipped her extra for the amount of his meal so that if he dashed she didn't have to pay and left him. When he saw me leaving and realized I was not going to pay and she was talking to him about how she was going to have to call the cops, he suddenly had the money. He still went with us, but he never pulled that shit again. Kind of a different side to this, but here goes. I was taking my daughter and leaving my abusive ex. Too many items thrown in my direction. We walked to a local pizza place I'd never been to in order to use their phone to find a place to stay. Not only did they allow us to use their phone, but also gave my daughter and I 2 slices of pizza each. Went back a few nights later after I got paid, and not only was I told it wasn't necessary, they were happy to help, but they also asked if we had been able to find a stable place to stay. I sung the praises of that place to everyone I talked to until it unfortunately went out of business 2 years later. Not exactly what you asked, but it's related. I have run the same restaurant for 9 years. I've had 14 or 15 people find themselves in this position. I've told every one of them to come back and take care of it when they could. Only one person failed to do so. I'll bet that goodwill generated was well worth the little bit I lost on the one who skipped out. The bottom line is this: what am I going to do? Call the police? If that was my policy, I would never have seen any of those people again. I laugh about their predicament, assure them that they are not the only person who had ever done it, and send them on their way. Went to an upscale sandwich shop. Had a sandwich inside each. Check comes. They don't take plastic. No signs about this anywhere, otherwise we would have come prepared, or not come at all. Husband ran to some high-fee ATM down the street, while I waited awkwardly with a waiter. Not going back. Well, not quite went out to eat, but I ordered a pizza to be delivered one time without realizing that I didn't have enough money to pay for it. I order from this same place pretty frequently, usually once a week or so most of the drivers know me. I tip well too because I've worked in the service industry before. Well, the pizza delivery man arrives, and I'm counting out the money and I'm like, shit, I'm $4 short, man. I knew the driver from previous deliveries and he goes, hell, man, no sweat, I've been there before. Don't worry about it. I thanked him profusely and gave him what I had. In return I got pizza. Well, next time I ordered from that same pizza place, the same guys delivering that day, my order totaled out to probably like $23 or $25 odd. I handed the jeweler $50. He starts making change, and I said, keep the rest, brother. You looked out for me, now I'm looking out for you. He was an older guy, had all kinds of faded tattoos, and this guy was almost in tears on my front porch. Kept asking me if I was sure. I insisted. He told me that he had gotten that job shortly before he first delivered to my place, roughly a week after he had gotten out of prison. He said that after prison, he had a hard time believing that people could still be good to each other. Men aren't supposed to cry, but I cried on the porch with that pizza delivery man, and we prayed together, even though I'm not big on religion. He'd gotten clean from meth during his prison time for manufacturing and selling it. I see him every now and then around town, and he seems to be doing a hell of a lot better every time I see him. He's still clean, still working, and I'm proud as fuck of that man I hardly even know. I was at Five Guys and their credit card machine was down. They told me to pay the next time I was there. I'm sure they didn't expect many people to come back and pay, but I went back the next day, had lunch again, and paid for both that day and the prior day's lunch. Didn't happen to me, but I was in college working for a restaurant chain. Guy, eating by himself at the bar, finishes meal then realizes he has no money. I could tell by the look on his face he was serious. He looked genuinely embarrassed. Told my manager. Manager goes out to talk to the guy. Manager comes back to me with guy's wallet and says, this customer will be back with money. When he returns, give him these. The manager hands me coupons for 2 free meals. I thought that was really cool of my manager to let the guy know that there were no hard feelings. Guy at the register on the way out offered and paid for my meal with his own money. Told me I could pay him back as soon as I was able. I went straight home and got my wallet, went straight back and paid him. Thanks dude. Seeing people go out of their way To help others is awesome. Couple weeks later, I'm shoveling snow in the parking lot at work after a big storm. We had gotten about a foot of snow overnight. A car pulls in and gets stuck in the parking lot. I go over to shovel the stuck car out, since I was shoveling anyways, and it's the same guy who paid for my meal. I was happy to help, of course. I had no cash on me one time and only had $18 in my bank account at the time. I went to a diner where they only accepted cash. I did not know this until I went to pay with my debit card and they said, "Cash only." I told them I don't have any cash and I don't have enough money in my bank account to withdraw from the ATM. A guy overheard my situation and covered my $6 bill. Only time it ever happened to me was at my neighborhood McDonald's. I took my son out, place our order, and then realized I'd left my wallet at home. We left to go back home to get it, but the manager chased me down and told me she'd cover it. I didn't take her up on it, since we lived all of 4 minutes away, but it was a nice gesture that I definitely appreciated it. Only done this once, when road tripping in Ireland. We had hiked through the Burns early in the morning and we decided to stop in a very secluded town to grab a bite. We ordered ourselves a nice beef and Guinness stew, along with 2 pints of Guinness. The restaurant was empty and the lady was very nice. We had a little chat. At the time of paying the bill, I was informed they didn't take credit cards or checks. We rummaged through our wallets, but ended up like €5 short. I went to the store next door which had an ATM, but the machine was out of order. The nearest ATM was in the next town, a 30 minutes car ride away, which meant we would lose 1h at least on our trip. We ended up apologizing profusely, and I felt really awful. The lady was very understanding and wished us a good trip. Nothing really extraordinary happened. I did this at a Wimpy a couple of decades ago. Not a big bill. Probably just a burger. Went to pay and realized I was in the classic wallet left in other trouser/pants/jacket scenario. Was sort of regular there. Jokingly said I can't wash up because I've got to be somewhere in 15 minimums. They told me to pay next time I was in. I then went to the bar a few doors down, where I was also a regular, and borrowed a tenner off the landlady. Went back to Wimpy and paid. Went back to pub to spend rest of tenner. This may have happened a couple of times the year I was at that college. Also, in a bar in France. Walked out completely forgetting l'addition, the bill/check. I'm not used to getting alcohol in bars without paying for it first. Remembered about half an hour later, and went back and paid. Was also in there about once a week and they hadn't chased me, because you've been here before, and have always paid. Top tip, it helps if they know you if you're forgetful. With me it wasn't food, but it was gas at a gas station or petrol here in the UK. Most petrol stations have automatic number plate recognition cameras anyway. I went in to pay and realized I had forgotten my wallet, but in those days you could leave your tax disc with them and return with the money. Good thing the lady at the kiosk saw me regularly, so she just said she'd give me 24 hours before contacting police. I was back within the hour with the cash. Had to fill a brief form though.
Get ugly. Get ugly.
Of Reddit. What is something men do in bed that you wish they didn't do? When I'm just about to come, like literally a second away, please don't change what you are doing. Don't suddenly change speed or technique. Just keep doing exactly what you were doing. The amount of times this has happened to me, and it changes a potentially mind-blowing orgasm into a mere one. Just because they are already hard, and think it's okay to give you a quick couple of fingers. Appreciate sometimes it is a quickie, but just because you're ready to get down to business, doesn't mean you can shove it in me when I'm practically still as dry as a camel's hoof. Sheesh. Don't rub my clitoris like you are scratching off a scratch card. Also please don't squeeze my tits super hard. Yes, they are attached. And while I'm here, if you finish before me, at least have the decency to help me finish too. Please don't do anything except vanilla sex unless we've discussed otherwise, especially if we are having sex for the first time. I had sex with a Tinder date that I hadn't met before, and he immediately started choking me without warning. Shit can get weird and scary real quick, especially if you already feel uncomfortable with a new guy. Sex for the first time can be awkward enough. Don't start choking anyone or ask for fingers in your booty hole unless you've talked about it before and she's cool with it. Edit. This shouldn't make a difference, but this was a guy I had talked to for months and really liked and trusted. I'm not hating on kinks, just ask before you do anything, especially if it's your first time with each other. The classic once he's done it's all over flop, leaving her hanging. Sure, you're knackered, but try mustering that last little bit of energy to do something for her. Other than that, my biggest peeve over the years has been finding grit/dirt/crumbs in the bed because he sat on it with shoes on, ate peanuts, or perhaps whittled a small chess set from splintery wood. I don't know, I wasn't there. I just got to sleep in the uncomfortable aftermath. Immediately pull off my clothes and insert the dick. Just because you are hard doesn't mean I'm magically turned on. I need a few minutes to become lubricated. Try some kissing, touching with clothes on, slowly taking clothes off, etc. I need foreplay too, and know your dick hitting my clit right before insert doesn't count. Hey, my clit is super sensitive. Light, feather strokes of the hand please. Do not press your fingers into it. It's not an elevator button. Edit. For fuck's sake, this is how I, and apparently many other women, feel. But this is not indicative of how every woman feels. Probably proper practice to start off slow and ask the lady if she'd like more pressure. Thanks. I cannot stand it when my boyfriend tries to make me deep throat harder than I actually can. When he puts his hand on my back of my head kinda forcing it closer and closer. Yeah, I know what I mean. Like dude, do you want puke all over your dick? I gotta say, I saw and read the men's version of this thread and was excited to see the women's thread, thinking yay, a fun thread for women to share what they'd like/enjoy more of. But instead it's about the stuff barring sexual pleasure, i.e. don't choke me without asking, don't flop over and fall asleep the second you come, dummy, and leave my cervix out of it, etc. This is all stuff that needs to be common knowledge, so I'm glad people are sharing. But the disparity between the two threads is just like, damn. Men's thread, fun extra/additional things you want women to do to make sex better. vs women's thread, basic stuff you want men to stop doing so you can actually enjoy sex. I know I'm generalizing a bit, but yeah. Be quiet while we are intimate in any form. I want to hear you. Also guys, do the starfish too. If I'm on top of you, for God's sake touch me, kiss, move my hips, make noises like you like it. Don't put your hands under your head or lay them on the bed. The only time I think that's okay is if I'm pinning you down. Okay, I'm doing a mix of shoulds and shouldn'ts. More of having sex at a more reasonable pace with hip rolling instead of pure jackhammering. This way feels amazing. Jackhammering kind of numbs the feeling of sex. A more sensual pace feels more, well, sensual and pleasurable. Less of putting a finger up my butt and then trying to finger my vagina. WTF, guys? Seriously disturbed by the number of men who don't get that you can't do this. It's basically a guaranteed infection. And more of keeping it simple during oral. Try tracing a gentle but firm infinity symbol over the clit again and again. Less of rubbing around the entrance of my vagina with your finger. What is this? At worst it itches/hurts. At best it feels uncomfortable and gives the impression that you've never touched a vagina before. More of kissing along spine, back of neck and shoulder blades. I DK about other people, but this is super sensitive for me. Come for me baby. Just because you say it doesn't mean I can flick a switch and just come. That shit takes concentration. Like, if you wanna say it, cool. Just say it as I'm coming and we're golden. I love my nipples being touched / rubbed over clothing and bare, but I'm actually a huge not fan of them being sucked. I'm not even particularly vanilla, but I just feel like you're a baby and trying to nurse, and it doesn't feel good. And it's always too hard. I've never once had someone be gentle enough. Every partner I've had has been into that, and I'll happily put up with a little of it, but not if you're going to hurt me. When I say stop, or I'm not feeling it to something we've done in the past, actually just stop. I wasn't lying before that I like it, but some sex things are affected by mood. If I'm not in the mood, I don't want it. Forcing the issue or acting proud why? Because I'm not into something that night isn't sexy or fun. Porn talk. I'm all for some dirty talk, but no, I do not get hot when I hear you want that, you little whore, over and over and over again. Oh, also asking immediately after if I got off. If you honestly have to ask, then no, I didn't. Guys that don't take off their shirts during sex. Why? It's uncomfortable, it gets sweaty, and it's not sexy. Why would you do all that in order to not be naked from the waist up? I get that some people are self-conscious, but again, I obviously found you attractive enough to sleep with you, so just take the damn shirt off. Hold off on coming for hours. Yes, it'd be cool if you didn't come in 30 seconds, but you don't have to prove to me that you can go all night. My vagina is gonna get sore from the constant thrusting pretty quick. If you happen to come quick, rat, I must be doing something right. Now let's focus on my clit, and if you can really go all night by the time in done, you'll be ready for round 2. I had a guy buy numbing spray once, so he could be the fucking Energizer Dick Bunny. He has no idea where he put it after that first night. That's because I put it in the dumpster out back. Most of the men I've been with don't really ever take their time with foreplay. It's like they don't realize how important this is. They just want to go straight to pounding. Like I have had to tell my boyfriend to slow down numerous times, because he will just rub me for like a few seconds then want to whip his dick in. My boyfriend watches stuff in his tablet when we are in bed. I hate it, it's always loud. He always has to watch act movies late at night. Drives me crazy. I'll start with I'm a dude. Yes, I own a penis. However, my sex life got 300x better when I did these couple things. Realize women are way different from both guys and each other. Every woman is different, but most enjoy communication and foreplay a lot. Women like gentle touch. Start something slowly and gently. Going straight into anything with a woman is usually going to elicit an eye roll. It will either be in the moment or later when she's reliving the encounter with her girlfriends. Foreplay, good damn it. I don't care if you don't like it. I don't care if you have to be inside this girl right now. You have to warm her up. You just spent 2 hours at dinner pretending to care that she's mad at Becky for being a bitch. You can spend 30 minutes kissing and touching her body lightly. Remember that bit about women being different? If this thread is any indication, women are way different in bed. That thing you did for your ex that made her scream? Yeah, it's probably not going to work on this girl. You've got to learn what this girl likes. It's actually fun and satisfying to figure it out and really get her off. Lose your ego in bed. Request communication and honest feedback. Do what she asks. Then, maybe, instead of her sighing and trying to get it over with like a chore, she'll start propositioning you for sex. My girlfriend does this quite a bit. Mostly because I've communicated that I enjoy that, but additionally because we've talked about it and found a rhythm that gets us both off. Ladies, everything I said is subject to your critique. Look aghast when you won't come instantly in 2 minutes, like they've seen in porn. It's okay to enjoy the sensations of whatever parts of sex you like, but oral sex is a particular offender here. The aim is pleasure and intimacy, rather than an orgasm. An orgasm is awesome, of course, but viewing that as a goal can quickly kill the mood for both parties. If the guy gets frustrated that doing whatever activity doesn't magically get his partner off in no time at all. Also wish men felt more free to be vocal, even grunts and moans are way better than silence. Switching it up too much to try every porno position you've ever watched. That stuff is for camera angles and isn't comfortable. If there's good groove going, just do that for a while. When men wants a BJ, but refuses to return the favor. when you go too soft on me. Sometimes I just want to be thrown down on the bed and taken. Be rough. Don't switch between my clit and vag. The more you switch, the longer it'll take for me to come. Don't pound it in. If you do my rear, it hurts. Use lube. Don't pinch my nipples until I'm good and turned on. If I say it hurts whether you think you're pinching or not. And for fuck's sake, touch more than my boobs and crotch. Quickies are awesome every now and then, but not every time. Cuddle with his pillow all night, every night, except the moment he wants sex, and after go back to his pillow. Add to the obvious, and yet super frequent. Care for her pleasure, and not only yours. I realized it's quite often we have sessions where I just pleasure him and that's it. I'm okay with that part, but never ever he just pleasure me, and be okay with that. I have to finish him every time. Also, communication is indeed important, but when it become a detailed list updated every 10 seconds, where you have no room for initiatives or even do what you want, it's dead. Go buy a fucking robot. Most of these are already listed, but I will reiterate. Do not come in my hair, unless we have agreed beforehand that you can do this. Do not just shove your dick in without lube and foreplay. If we agree that you can choke me during sex, don't do it so hard, and listen to me. If I tell you it's uncomfortable, you can't breathe, please talk a little. I don't like quiet sex. If I'm talking to you, I want you to talk too. So glad about my GF. After reading this thread, well, I was before as well, but my god, some people don't seem to like anything, and treat small things as a big issue. Just say, hey, I don't like that / don't want that right now would solve half these. This is why communication is gold. Some people like dirty talk, some people like to stay quiet and moan silently in their head until they have an orgasm. Some people like it up their ass and some like to get licked in the ear. But not all do. If you haven't been with a lot of guys / girls, you might think that most of them like pretty much the same treatment. And if they never tell you what they like / don't like, you will just keep on going. Communication is a big part of having sex, and if you do it multiple times with the same person, tell them how you like it. Also, people are bad at taking hints, so just straight out rip them a new one if they don't get it after several tries. When I'm on top pressing their hand against my lower abdomen with the idea that it will bring my G-spot closer to their penis, it doesn't work for me, and it's just weird to have a hand on my belly that limits my movement. I know this sounds weird, but insisting on giving me head. Sometimes, you women just aren't that good. You can turn me on a different way. If I don't want head, don't ask why. Don't ask if it was good. Let's just keep this train moving. 8. So did you finish? It doesn't matter. I enjoyed it, and it felt good. TBH, I kinda hate orgasming in the company of other people. It's too vulnerable, and I'm too embarrassed. Rubbing my clit after I've orgasmed. That shit hurts. If I tell you don't touch it, I mean it. I'm not just being coy and cute. It fucking hurts. Pound me as deep as they can. Hitting a woman's cervix is extremely painful, and the bigger the guy is, the more likely it is to happen. Don't drag my head down when you want a blowjob. Use your words, please. I remember when a female friend of mine told me she hated her boyfriend for showing arrogance in bed, basically told her with the amount of females he slept with. So I would reckon that. The dick tapping on the vulva you always see in porn. As with everything, I'm sure some women like it, but it's just so awkward and doesn't do anything to me.
Mask!
Copy.
Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.